All right, folks. I trust everybody's well. As we usually do, I'm going to read to you the last 7 daily inspirations, and then you guys go ahead and pick one, and we'll go from there. Okay, November 11th, compassion for those in emotional pain. November 12th, self-worth, focusing on appreciation instead of condemnation. November 13th, respecting our journey by releasing our guilt. November 14th, you are someone's answered prayer. November 15th, our children and the thoughts we think. November 16th, free will, the end of feeling like a victim. And November 17th, emotions are the compass of the soul. So would somebody be interested in one of those?
Emotions.
Emotions, okay. You mean like compassion for those in emotional pain? That one? Or emotions are the compass of the soul?
Yeah, the last one.
The last one, okay.
That's my suggestion, but whatever else anyone else wants to vote on.
That's right. We'll start there and then we'll see how it works out. Okay, this is a condensed version. It's emotions are the compass of the soul. Condensed version, it's 2 paragraphs long. I'll go ahead and read them and then we'll go from there. Okay. Second. Paragraph 1. Today, let us stop judging and putting ourselves and others down for having emotions. If we would like to let go of the ego's judgment-centric, fear-based, delusional mindset and of the world that mindset has created, then we must allow ourselves to feel our feelings. For the only feelings we can truly heal are those we allow ourselves to feel. We need to experience the false concepts that we have been programmed to defend as real until we realize their uselessness. Once we begin to recognize their lack of value in our life, we will decide to stop choosing and using them. Beings loves creations. Only the love in us is and could ever be real and true. Every thought and emotion that tries to place itself in opposition to the love that we are is illusionary in nature. Because the amount of time invested in the ego's past programming, this may be difficult to believe. This is why processing these illusionary thoughts and emotions is an important way to figure out what we no longer want. Thus today, let us allow ourselves to feel, process, forgive, and with love, release all the emotions that we no longer desire to have guiding us anymore. Paragraph 2. God, being love and all, uses all for good. Even what the ego calls negative emotions are used by God to help us understand what we no longer want. Understanding what we no longer want helps us create a clear picture of what it is we do want. With this in mind, today let us offer gratitude to our emotions. If a quote bad or quote negative emotion pops into our mind, let us not judge it or ourselves. Instead, like a surfer, let us ride each emotion, each wave of our sacred journey with peace, gratitude, and grace. In doing so, we are at peace in both the ebbs and flows of everyday life. Both the ebbs and flows, the so-called, in quotes, good and, in quote, bad emotions, are here to help us understand ourselves better. They are here to show us an external picture of our internal condition. They are here to help us let go of our self-judgments, and in doing so, learn to trust the divine design more. They're here to help us learn to recognize and follow our true guides, our true north, such as the emotions of love, compassion, forgiveness, kindness, peace, joy, and grace. End of paragraph 2. All right. So the idea of this daily inspiration is to have a little more compassion for your growth process.
Which one is
Okay.
one, James?
It's the November 17th.
Okay, thank you.
Emotions are the compass of the soul. Okay, so the idea of this daily inspiration is just to have a little more compassion for yourself and your growth. Okay, remember, you co-created your journey with God. Okay, you came here to bring light into the darkness in your own unique ways and in your own unique experience, let's call it. Whatever your experience is, whatever darkness you have or are experiencing, that's just part of your sacred journey. You're here to go through it. You're here to understand it. You're here to release it with forgiveness and compassion. And then you're here to help others find the way out of that darkness through your life experience. And so as we're processing our journey with more compassion instead of self-judgment or judgments of others, because anytime, let's say we have a challenge in life, what happens? We punish ourselves and we decide to call ourselves not spiritual enough, not wise enough, not good enough for going through that process, right? That's the ego's way of dealing with your challenges. Let's call them challenges. And so the ego puts you down. Why does it put you down? Why does the ego want to make you feel less than perfect? Simply because ego knows that God is perfect, right? And the ego doesn't want you to think of yourself as part of God, as part of perfection. The ego wants you to think of yourself as part of it. And so when you're experiencing that negativity, that aligns you with the ego. And guess what happens? The ego gets to survive and thrive through your misperceptions of yourself and others. Okay? And so that's the ego's little silly game. And it can come in 1,000 different forms, okay? Each one of us can have different challenges. But the ego is always playing the same little game. It's telling you you're bad, you're negative, you're somehow did something wrong, and therefore you're not good enough or spiritual enough or not whatever enough. And so no matter what the challenge is, that's the ego's little game. So what do we do? Okay, we start to hear the ego, we start to punish ourselves or others with our thoughts, right? And then that brings darkness into our life. Let us stop that line of thinking, okay, because we have free will. So we can stop that line of thinking, right? And consciously realize what is happening. Oh, wait a second. The ego's in control of my mind and thinking. And if the ego's in control of my mind and thinking, then it's in control of my life. Okay? And so let me use this moment not to punish myself and not to punish others, but instead to take back control of my own mind, of my own thoughts, and realize that what is happening right now, these so-called challenges or dark or difficult times, what is happening right now, I chose in order to bring light into the darkness, in order to help awaken me to the understanding that no matter what the ego throws my way, I can overcome it and I can help others overcome. And that is my mission. And so all these little challenges that the ego has to condemn yourself for, each and every one of those are part of your mission in life. And so if you're wondering, well, what's my purpose or mission in life? Life is showing you. Life shows you what your mission in life is. The thing is that we judge our experiences and condemn ourselves and others and put ourselves down so badly that we just get sad when our challenges come instead of saying, you know what? Okay, this is an interesting curveball. What do you do with curveballs? For those who have ever played softball or baseball, you just wait. You just wait for the curveball to do its thing, and then you hit it out of the park. And so if you're having that challenge, first of all, remember, God would not offer a challenge that he knows you cannot overcome. And so whatever your challenge is or challenges are, no matter how dark or difficult they may be, you, deep down inside you and God, know that you can overcome it, that you can get through it, that you are going to get through it, and that you're going to get to a place of peace and understanding about it, and then you can be one of God's torches in this dark world, according to the ego. And so you can become the light at the end of the tunnel for other people. Why? Because you had the courage to go through your challenges and through your dark and quote unquote dark and difficult times. And so that's what this daily inspiration is trying to kind of remind you of. Is a listen. It's all okay. You're gonna get through it. Pace yourself each and every day. It's a sacred co-creation with the divine. You will use this for good. You will get through this and use this for good. And when you use it for good, when you start to help other people leave their own darkness, and other people will listen to you. Why? Why are other people going to listen to you when you talk about your life experience? Because they know that you went through it. And it's because when they hear you, when those in the darkness hear you speak about your life experience and how you overcame it or are trying to overcome it, they will say, you know what? That person right there, he or she knows what I'm going through. And if he or she overcame it, then so too can I. And so that's why those people will listen to you. And God gave you those spiritual tools. And then what happens? God starts sending you people. All those people who the challenges that you went through and overcame, people will come to you. And they'll start to look for the light, and they'll see that you have the light within the words that you use. And then they will come to a place of peace. And then when they start coming to a place of peace, then you will start to understand the whole sacred circle of why you went through what you went through. When you start to help all those other brothers and sisters who come to you heal. Oh, I'm getting why I went through this. Okay. And then when you start to get why you went through it, and when you start to help those people, then you're going to come to a place of peace about your situation, about your experience. And then what happens when you come to a place of peace about your experience and life experience? Then you start to forgive those people in your past who created those dark and difficult times. Because you see, they were just part of a sacred process that helped you become this teacher that you now are. And so they were part of that process. And so those people that the ego would insist that you carry within you with judgment and anger and resentment and hatred and revenge are the exact same people that once you awaken to who you truly are and what you're truly here to do, you will forgive and release with love. And so that's roughly the November 17th daily inspirational message. Emotions are the compass of the soul. Any comments or questions? That was a long explanation, but hey, it is what it is. Yes, Jen, I think.
Oh, I love this message because so much I always thought we were meant to avoid our negative emotions or stuff them down, but it seems like we have to feel them to heal them. We have to look at them, understand them, so we can move through them instead of just kind of like bury them or stuff them under the rug. So I love this post about it. It's like they come up for healing, and we're trained to judge it and criticize it, but if we can just observe it, we can make use of it as our awakening tool. So I love this reminder that you share. Thank you.
And yes, and that's a complete reversal of the ego's mindset and thought system. Because it says when these negative emotions, when you start to feel them, put them back under the rug, Don't let anybody else see it. But you know what? That's part of your mission in life, is to bring the darkness out of you and bring it to the surface so that you can deal with it, so that you can heal it, and so that you can teach others how to heal. And so don't allow the ego to tell you to hide who you truly are. Bring who you truly are and what you're feeling to the surface. So, and when you bring it to the surface, when you deal with it yourself, or when you deal with it with professionals, or when you deal with it with whoever else is helping you awaken, then you will let go of this stuck crap. Oh, sorry, CRAP that you're carrying within you, and when you do, guess what happens? You feel lighter and lighter and freer and freer, and then you're wondering why. Why am I feeling so much more peace? It's because you decided not to listen to the ego, not to hide your quote unquote negative or dark thoughts, and just to bring it to the surface and see them for what they are. They're stories. They're stories that were never real or true. Only the love in you is true. Only the love in your brother and sister is true. That's what's eternal. And only what's eternal is true. Everything else is just a blink in eternity's eyes. So if you're going to judge yourself for blinking as an eternal being, you have a little tiny bit of challenges in life, right? And you are eternal, and this is the little tiny little moment in eternity, and you judge yourself so much for this little tiny moment in time. Well, just bring it up, bring it to the surface, and then now in the surface light, the light of truth, you're able to heal it and become the light of the world that God created you to be. So yes, be courageous and know that God is with you as you do that.
James,
Yes.
it's time for me to bring you an issue and see if you can help me clear it. I was saying the other day that as I keep working through all of these things and doing my lessons and doing these practices, a lot of very beautiful things have happened. But also, I've noticed that students keep opening up to me in their writing and telling me some very tragic things that have happened, which I, take as an opportunity to just show as much compassion as I can, as much love as I can. And then sometimes, I hit a wall because these things didn't happen to me. But when something is so terrible and dark, and I just have a hard time, I just feel despair. I used to feel rage, but now I just feel despair. Very similar to, when the war broke out and I heard what the terrorists had done, that kind of thing. One of my students wrote a paper for me that I opened up today. And I've known this child, he's not a child, he's 31 years old, he's a non-traditional student, but I've known this guy for well over a year because he actually was on the dance team with my daughter that I was a faculty advisor for. And he's wonderful. He's hilarious. I knew that he took care of his sister's children. He's nice and funny and bright and a great writer. So he took a class with me. I never had him in a class before. In this essay that I opened today, he included research, and it turns out that it was a news story. And the news story he revealed in the essay was about him. And he was chained to a bed for 4 years, padlocked. And because he snuck out to and he broke into a neighbor's house because he was hungry and he needed food. And I don't know how to get rid of the darkness I feel when I see that. I cannot process it. And he's great. He takes care of his sister's children. He works. He's a beautiful person. I mean, when I see him, I'm just going to go up and hug him. I can't believe that this is what happened to him, but I'm not okay. I don't feel equipped to handle this level of darkness. It's just, I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I mean, the ego wants you to carry it, obviously, right? Because the ego wants you to feel like it's part of you instead of you being part of God.
Yeah.
And so the ego needs you to be attached to the story. Okay, it's not your story.
No.
It's not for you to carry. So each and every time I always say, do the opposite of what the ego is recommending, or AKA do the opposite of what the ego is demanding. Okay. The ego is demanding that you carry the story of somebody else. Okay. That's what the ego is demanding. And you're saying, okay, I'll carry it. And you feel like CRAP, but you still carry it. And so you're never going to get to your destination of peace going down dead end roads. Okay. So, okay, I'm going, every time I think about this story that my student just, as I heard about my student, I lack peace. And so let me try to do something that I haven't done before. Instead of keeping the story with me, let me offer it to God. Let me hold it in my hands. Let me visualize the story in your hands. Okay, visualize the darkness in your hands, the heaviness in your hands, and then offer it to God. And feel that story leaving you, leaving your hands, and then your hands become lighter, so you just they go up, or leaving your shoulders, because we usually carry it on our shoulders. That's a saying. There's a reason why they say you're carrying it on your shoulders, because you're carrying that stuff on your shoulders. So if you really release it over to source, then it departs from you. So now God has it, and you're not. It's not something negative it's not a negative interaction you're having with God. Why? Because the ego would say, oh, if you give this negativity over to God, God is going to be pissed off. Okay, because you're sending him negative vibes. Okay. But you see, God, when you send that stuff over the darkness, over to that light, capital T and capital L, it dissolves in its light. And so you want to visualize that darkness dissolving in his light. And why does God want that darkness from you? Why?
Do
Because,
something good with it?
well, yes, but because this darkness, this story that you're believing, right? It's blocking who you truly are. So it's dimming your light. So why does God want that? Because when you offer this darkness, these veils to source, it opens up the veils, right? And then you become this brighter light to the world. And now you can have peace instead of holding on to that judgment. And so do the opposite of what the ego is demanding. When the ego says, hold on to the story, even though it's not yours, take that moment, pause, remind yourself, every time I do this, I never have peace. Let me try something that would actually bring me peace, and then offer it to source. And then each and every time that story comes to your mind and the ego says, hold on to it, no, just give it over to God. Give it over, offer it to the light, and feel it leaving your body, and feel the lightness that you feel after you offer it to God. And then thank the story. Because what is the story really offering you when you release it over to source? It's offering you the reminder that in any situation, any challenging time, you can offer all your darkness over to source. And that's what source wants. Source wants all your misperceptions so that you can become the light of the world that he created you to be. And so don't feel ashamed by giving your negative emotions or negative thoughts over to source. That's what source wants. And so what the story is teaching you is that you're worthy of God no matter what you're holding on to. No matter what you're holding on to, you are worthy of God's healing. But you have to decide that you're worthy of being healed. You have to decide that God is in your corner. And so, you know what? Have a little courage. Bring this darkness into the physical form and offer it to source. Give it to God. Give it to pure love, knowing that that's what God wants you to do, so that you can heal and become the light of the world that he created you to be. And so do that each and every time. practice doing that. Christina?
Thank you, James, for everything that you've been sharing, and everyone else, and Wendy for sharing the story. And what comes to mind too is something that James shared at the beginning about, I don't know what term you used, but I really liked it, like the divine circle, or like something in regards to something circular where it comes full
Yes.
circle when you are
Sacred circle.
sacred circle. Yes, that. Where we're able to share our experience and help another. And I love what James said right now to you, Wendy, because it's for you to process whatever it is that you were exposed to. But we know that everything is perfect and that there are no mistakes in God's world. And so what if God has you in this circumstance as the vessel, that when you do see him and you do hug him, you can remind him of how his experience, his strength, and his hope will one day maybe help another individual. Because we're all here to help one another heal. And maybe he doesn't even know that. Like, I don't know anything about this person, but maybe he doesn't have a voice in his life to remind him that whatever he's been through, it will serve a bigger purpose at some point in his life, even if he can't see that right now. And maybe he does see it. I mean, who knows? Again, I don't know anything about him, but like there is a reason why he felt the impulse or the nudge to share this with you, because he didn't have to share that with you. And there's a reason why God allowed all of this to unfold the way that it did. And so there's a bigger picture here, aside from maybe the discomfort that's coming in with you. Like there's also another layer that you can bring to him and maybe help him heal if he doesn't already know that it will serve a larger purpose.
Thank you so much. It's interesting because I feel that he is healed, and that the way that he takes care of his sister's children, he's very devoted to them. He won't leave Miami because he wants to be there for them. And I feel that what he went through gave him this ability to just be loving like that. It was me. I feel dark when I hear these things. And James, it's so funny because as soon as you said what I should do with it, I was like, yes, that's what I should do with it. And I felt so relieved when you said it. I think when I'm exposed to this kind of thing, it's like everything gets very small. And it's like I just feel like struck dumb. Like I don't know what to do. I just get paralyzed with dark, even though you've told me before, it's like I forget as soon as this happens. I'm so overwhelmed that I can't remember what I'm supposed to do. But now that you said it again, now I remember to give it over. And as soon as you said that, I felt relief. Like I know what to do with it and it's going to be okay. So thank you. And Christine, you're right. I already wrote back to him because I write comments on their papers, and I told him he's a miracle. I said, you're a miracle because look what you've come out of, and look at the life you've made for yourself. You work, you're in school, you take care of your sister's children. And also he's a joyful person, creative, joyful person,
And yeah.
so that's what
And
I
I
need here. Yeah.
I love what you said. I love your self-awareness too, because I recognize it within my own self as well. When something happens, sometimes I get like kicked into this like survivor mode and I completely shut down. And I become very curious as to like when it's happening, observing myself and trying to kind of follow that thread. Like, what is it about shocking situations that then takes me into this state where I'm like dumbfounded and like paralyzed and like it's almost like a deer in headlights. And so you're recognizing something, like when you are confronted with something that creates such turmoil within you, you shut down, and the gift is that we do eventually get out of it, but there's something there, maybe even for your own self, for you to unpack, because that's been my experience. I'm only saying that because that's been me, but I definitely relate to that.
Thank you. I think it's a trauma response. I think for me, I don't know for you, but I come out of trauma and that's, you freeze. I think that's what's happening, is it causes some kind of fear in me, even though it's not happening to me. I don't know what else to think of it, but maybe I just have to reflect a little more. And also I'm just horrified. And also I just feel so much compassion and I just want to do something and you feel helpless. You know what I mean? Because it already happened to him. I can't help him. It happened. You know, I don't know. But I think James is right. You know, all the way down the line, I have to give it over to God. There is nothing for me to do except that. And also just to show my student love. And to tell him that I, you know, I did write to him. I said, you know, the fact that he wanted to share that with me means a lot to me. I know that that means he felt safe.
Yeah, and the simplicity of the message is that no matter the story, the answer is always the same thing. Instead of holding on to that darkness, release it over to God.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
And then you'll see that story and those kind of stories, what they helped you remember is that you're worthy of God's companionship. And yet you're worthy of being healed and held by source, by God, by love. And so then when you start to see that the story itself helped you realize that you're worthy of being healed by source, being held by God, then now you become grateful to the story and to those who provided the story to you. Because all they're doing is helping you practice letting go of the story and coming back into alignment with who you truly are, which is the light of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll hold that gratitude in abeyance, but I'll do the rest of it. Thank you, James. Everybody who knows me knows the gratitude is not going to flow on this one, but okay.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Or is anybody holding on to something that they're kind of like secretly don't want to let go of because they think they're going to judge themselves or others? Or is everybody free from the delusions of this world?
Don't make me laugh, Dave.
Yes. Yeah, so listen, we're all carrying stuff, okay? We didn't come here to be little pawns in the chessboard, you know? Wait, Mary, is your hand up or is
Yes.
okay, go ahead, Mary.
Hello. Look at me. About an hour ago, I received email of my court, the judge final divorce decree after 48 years of marriage. And so I'm very appreciative to just sit in this space with everyone. And at the same time, I'm like, am I feeling my feelings, or am I fooling myself? Just to be able to sit with it is kind of scary.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point is, okay, when your feelings pop up, okay, and you know those feelings are not part of the truth in you, with the light in you. Like we said in paragraph 1 here, it's okay to feel your feelings. You know, sit with your feelings. If you have to cry, cry. If you have to get pissed off, get pissed off. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the healing process for us humans. And so feel whatever it is that you think you need to feel. But you know what? After you feel it or while you're feeling it, why don't you bring, if you believe in Christ, bring Christ in. If you believe in Buddha, bring Buddha in. If you believe in the Holy Spirit, bring the Holy Spirit in. If you believe in Mary, bring Mary in. If you believe in something else, bring that something else in. Or if you have a great grandfather or a beautiful grandmother who's on the other side, bring them in and have them sit with you and have them share that moment with you.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And, yes, and so share it with those individuals or those spiritual beings, and say, you know what, I'm going to be sad for the next half an hour. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Or I'm going to be pissed off for the next half an hour and hit my pillow. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But after you've processed the emotions, recognize that you don't belong stuck in that swamp. That's not what you're here for. You're here to overcome those delusions, a story, and to become a light for the world. And so process it whenever you feel like you need to process. Whenever you feel like you need to sit in a dark room and cry. No big deal. The ego would put you down. The thing is, the ego puts you down for feeling your feelings. Why? Why does the ego do that? Because the ego knows that if you do that, then you judge yourself, and then you think you're not part of a perfect God.
Oh.
Your journey is divinely designed, and so you are perfect, no matter what your mind is thinking, no matter what your body has experienced. You are perfect. You are created from perfection, and there's nothing or nobody that can ever change the truth in you. The truth in you is always going to be true. The love in you is always going to be true. Everything else is just a story we bought into in order to somehow slip into the darkness, to understand it better, overcome it, and become a light in the world. And that's okay. We were courageous. All of us here were in the physical form because we had the courage to come from a perfectly loving place into the duality of this world to help others remember who they truly are. And so we were in a place of perfect love, hanging in the hammock in some heavenly forest, you know. And, we heard a call for help and healing from this world. And then we said to ourselves, you know what? I can help in this area. I can bring healing to this area of the darkness in this world. And then you came down. You came down into the physical form. You chose your parents. You chose your physical experience, because that physical experience, those situations, were the best situation for you to fulfill your purpose in this lifetime. And so, pat yourself on the back for having the courage to be a human being in the physical form, and don't allow the ego to keep you down. Feel your feelings; they're perfectly okay to feel. Process them, offer them over to Source, to the Holy Spirit, to Christ, and then let it go with love, understanding, grace, mercy, and become the light of the world that God created you to be.
James, could you talk a little bit about rigidity, whether that's a function of the ego and how one can get over it? Or should we just accept it?
Like rigidity, like being stuck to your past programs?
Your way of being, no, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Oh, this being right.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that a function of the ego?
yeah, it's part of your past programming. You reacted in a certain way at a certain moment in time, and somehow you thought that it gave you what you needed in that moment, and so now you're repeating this pattern. But now you're realizing that this pattern is not getting you to this place of peace and joy in your life, and so now you're trying to let go of this pattern. And so, if a pattern is not bringing peace to your mind or joy to your heart, why should you continue to support that pattern? Why continue to support a line of thinking that never delivers to you peace to your mind or joy to your heart? Why? Okay. So stop supporting patterns and ways of thinking that are not supporting you. If they're not bringing you peace into your mind or joy into your heart, stop supporting that line of thinking. Just recognize this is a pattern that I, in the past, repeated over and over again, that I cemented into my experience. But even cement, you know how those little flowers grow through cement sometimes? And like even in the highways, you see the highway, and then you see like a little flower going through the cement. And that little flower is a symbol that there's something real and true in you. It doesn't have to be forever cemented. Okay. So just recognize, okay, this line of thinking is not delivering to me what I want. So let me stop supporting the line of thinking. Let me stop supporting it with my time, focus, and energy. I will no longer dedicate my time, focus, and energy to this line of thinking that is never delivering to me the peace of mind and joy that I want. So now you have the free will to look for another way, look for a road to peace, a road to forgiveness and mercy and grace and joy. And so, yes, whenever those past programming, you feel like it's cemented in your mind, just recognize that you have free will and that you can choose once again. You can choose a way to peace, a way to joy. And little by little, you're learning that you don't have to keep on repeating these past programs or supporting them.
I think somebody's unmuted. There's clicky clacking.
Clicky clacking, that's, I think that might be Mary, I think.
Oh dear.
I think Mary was clicky clacking. Okay. I have a message, I think. I have trouble with my this is Gaynord. I have trouble with my emotions over my little grandson. He is mentally and physically disabled, okay, nonverbal, yes. Still in diapers and almost 10 years old, okay. I don't know how to feel happy. I am an empath and also feel my son's pain over his son. The emotional pain is debilitating, okay. Mary's typing, okay. Yeah, so, okay. Your grandson, the ego would say, okay, this person is disabled. That's what that's what the ego defined this child as, right? But this child is not that disability. He just chose for a moment in time to come into the physical form in this form. For what reason? That might be above our pay grade. But maybe it's something to do with the father and increasing his level of compassion, or maybe that child is going to teach others how to be more respectful of children that are not quote unquote physically able, whatever you want to call it. And so that child, even though he's nonverbal, even though he's disabled, even though he's in diapers, that's a freaking courage, a very courageous soul to come into this world knowing that he would experience that. Okay, that's not easy. I wouldn't want that job, but for some reason, that's what he, along with his father, chose, along with you, because you're the grandmother. Yes, the ego would say, "Oh man, this is really debilitating to have this situation." And yes, we all get it. We all get it on the ego level. This is a very difficult situation, and I have cousins who have the same, or in the spectrum, children in the spectrum, and it's not easy. I understand that, and but for X or Y reason, and you see it. I mean, when I was growing up, this was never an issue, and now, there's an enormous amount of children who are quote unquote disabled or none, or having challenges in those areas. And why? I mean, there is a greater purpose to this. These are, remember, these are eternal beings that for a little moment in time have chosen this quote unquote disabled body. Okay, and like we said before, you have to have freaking a lot of courage and guts to go into this physical form in that way. And to does your son, to bring him in, to bring your grandson into the world, and so do you. And so you just have to remember there's a soul, there's a perfect soul inside that quote unquote disabled body. Okay. And that soul is perfect. Your job is to look at that soul and not see the delusion, the physical form of the body. The body is what it is. It's going to be what it is. Okay. how can I look upon this individual with love, with compassion, with understanding? How can I bring some sort of joy or peace to this individual? And then you start to see how this individual, who the world calls disabled, is helping you brighten your own light, bring love to your own heart. Because no matter how disabled they are, you still love them. And so, they're teaching you lessons, even though the ego might block those lessons from your conscious mind. They're teaching you something. There's something there that he came to teach you, and to teach all those who are going to be in his physical proximity. And so learn to just see the beauty in that person, and find ways to feel compassion and joy, and try to make him laugh, and or smile, or even touching the person. Even touching the person is a beautiful act of compassion.
But James, what is her grandson teaching her?
Well, that's between her. That's what she's got to figure out. She's got to. Let's say, for example, okay, you have a disabled son, okay, and you feel sad because of the situation that your son is in, okay. Maybe one of your lessons is to let go of that sadness, and decide to see this son as perfect, no matter how imperfect the world says that he or she is. Because that there's a soul inside that body, right? And that soul is eternal and perfect. Okay. And the soul has courage to be in that body. And so, we have to look at that person with saying to ourselves, man, this boy or girl, they have guts, you know. And so the lesson, the grandmother has to figure that out for herself, and has to go from place, because in the chat she says, the emotional pain is debilitating. Okay, so how can she start to let go of that emotional pain? How can she start to offer that pain instead of keeping it inside, like we were talking about? How can she offer it to God? Let go of that pain, offer it to God. Practice using those moments of darkness to practice trusting God more, and say, God, listen, I don't know why my grandson is this way, but in this moment, I know that I can choose peace by releasing this pain over to you, to source, and looking at my grandson perfect as you created him. He is perfect no matter what the world says, he's perfect. Okay? So that child is perfect. So look at another child as perfect.
Could I speak to that for 1 second?
Yes, go ahead, Wendy.
Because as it happens, I have a severely disabled niece, very much like what you described, very, very much. Not nonverbal, but not very verbal. And because there's Down syndrome plus on the autistic spectrum, a lot of just repetition of the same things rather than like being able to have dialogue, just repeating things. And so I can tell you two things that it's very clear to see what she has done for the family. One is that her brother is 7 years older than her. And he's a doctor now, and he's in his residency. And throughout his schooling, like, when he wanted to go to college and medical school, I would look at his essays for him. And what he always wrote about was his sister. And he wrote about how being raised with her created in him this desire to help people and show compassion. And, and he always wanted to protect her. And it's beautiful, very, very beautiful. And in fact, he's married. He just had twins all within a year. But I remember when he was, dating, and he just said, whoever I am with has to love Shelley and has to be willing to know that Shelley's going to come live with us eventually when, my sister and her husband eventually, will not be able to take care of her anymore. And he married somebody who absolutely adores her. It's just very beautiful to see. So that was number one. Number two is me. Shelley, because she's, has some autism, she didn't want very much to do with me. And you don't force yourself on people. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want to be touched. She doesn't want to interact with me. That's fine. And I usually only saw her at family parties. She loved my daughter. She just likes who she likes. And she just didn't want to interact with me very much. So I would just talk to her, but not approach her very much. But as it happens, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when I moved into the house I'm in, my daughter and I could not stay here for a few weeks because of things that they had to do to the home. And I had to go live with my sister and her family. And during that time, every day, Shelly was going to school from home. And I asked, is it okay if I sit at the table with her and I'll do my work while she does hers, just so I could see what was happening and observe. And because I got to spend all that time with her, she got a little bit attached to me, and she liked me to sing with her. I would sing Hallelujah. So every time she sees me, she says Hallelujah. She wants me to sing that to her. And one day she came and sat next to me on the couch. I couldn't believe it. And put her leg up for me to, tickle her feet or touch her. And I did it. And she looked at me and she said, I love you. I'm telling you, it was shocking. It was amazing. I couldn't believe that she said that to me. It was just, it was a God moment. I don't know what else to say. It was so beautiful. And so I'm telling you my story so that you can understand that there could be a whole lot more there. But right now you have a lot of pain about it because it's not what you wish it were. But it's still fine.
Yeah.
Or as Mike would say, perfect.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Isabel, you have your hand up?
Yes. The courage to raise a baby, that comes to the world that we don't know how it's gonna be growing up. That courage, it's admirable. Now, I know of one of these ladies that she adopted this kid. He's 14 years old. And he's 14 years old, autistic, with speech disabilities, communication disability. Still uses Pampers, he has incontinence, has behavioral issues because there's moments when he, instead of asking for things, he yells. He's been in foster homes in different places, and at school, the classmate, which happened to be the daughter of this lady, now she brought this patient to the company. She made, she's friends with this guy, and she, raised this compassion because he was like, a foster home through next foster home. And she mentioned that to her mom, and her mom said, would you like that we adopt him? And she said, yes. And yeah, they did adopt him 8 months ago. Now he's receiving the help of a behavioral therapist, a home health nurse, like we are the home care company. Of course, he has a pediatrician and a neurologist, but he's a very loving person. The nurse who's with his client says, Isabel, it's a joy to have him. I know he misbehaves sometimes, but he's so sweet. He tells me, mi amor, te estaba extrañando. ¿Dónde tú estás? Me dice, he speaks Spanish. He's American, but he speaks Spanish in a very funny language. And he makes me laugh. He says, just by the way he is, he makes me laugh. It's like, oh my God, he needs help in everything. Even she has to feed him in the mouth because he can coordinate with his hands. And probably he was abused, despite that he has these disabilities or something, because he has trauma. And but this courage of adopting someone, at that age and with all these issues, knowing he has these issues, like, my God, wow, it's really, what can I say? But yes, it's not easy, but there is help to make our life manageable with them. And the behavioral therapist knows how to be with them, to guide them with homework. Government pays. The children, all of them, qualify for CMS Sunshine Insurance. And probably they already know, kid already have. But they can be smart and loving. I think I have one of my cousins, she's by my ex-husband's side, that she says she was with a Down syndrome daughter. She passed away at the age of 45. And she was, I will not change my daughter for anybody. I would love, if she had to have a new one, I would love to be her. Exactly how she was. Because it was my best friend, my best companion. She will be with me. I will cook with her. I will go out with her. She was the love of my life. She loved her more than the husband because she's divorced from the husband, down the road. But yeah, she wrote poems and stuff and wrote a book. And she said the best thing that ever happened to her is to have the daughter with Down syndrome. So just sharing this.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and so much that, I mean, that woman is basically saintly, I mean, the amount of compassion you have to have, the amount of patience you have to have, the amount of inner peace you have to work with these individuals, and that only brightens your light. So you're becoming saintly. You're becoming more godlike by serving these individuals. And so these individuals, came into your life to help you become more godlike, compassionate, more loving, more gentle, more graceful, more trusting in the source. So there's a lot of lessons that you can learn from these individuals, and these individuals, being in their physical situation, are offering you that opportunity. And so when we realize all those gifts that they are offering us, then our gratitude increases for them. And so yes, they have their own journey and purpose and job to do on Earth. So they're equally worthy, as we all are. Okay, I want to say what in the chat says. Gaynor says, my grandson spoke to me in a dream. That's really cool. And they can speak to you in dreams because it's not really a dream. It's kind of like a visitation, let's call it. Because when we go to sleep, a lot of times our souls leave our bodies and they do work, right? And our bodies remain asleep while our souls do work in the spiritual and spiritual worlds, let's call them. And so when Gaynor, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, the first name, when she falls asleep, her soul leaves the body, and then when her grandson falls asleep, his soul, being perfect, leaves his body, and then they can communicate. So you saw here, my grandson spoke to me in a dream. That's very, very, very possible, very normal, actually. I could actually hear his voice for the first time. That's very cool. Amazingly, he giggled and giggled and told me that being allowed to be born disabled was, in his exact words, I won the lottery, Grandma. Wow. So that was her in her chat. So yeah, so these individuals who are quote unquote nonverbal, yes, in the physical body they are, but in reality they're not. Their soul can speak to you anyway, anytime, and you can get into those meditation moments. You can have out-of-body experiences, or if you don't know about that, then you can have quote unquote dream experiences, which are not really dream experiences. They're situations in the spiritual realm when you leave the body during the night. And so you can talk to those individuals in that form. And you saw right there, the child, this quote unquote disabled child, said he won the lottery by being in that body. Now, we're never going to really understand it in this physical world, but once we return to heaven, and maybe we can meet up with this person, he can explain to us why this body and this choice was so important to him and to the world and to all those around him. So yeah, You know, everything is a gift from God to us. It's just that the ego tries to hide that from us. So yeah, that's a beautiful experience. And yeah, it was not a dream. It was a real experience. Yes. Any final comments or questions before we close?
This was great. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, I guess we shall close then. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Gaynord. Thank you, Will, Jen, Smear, Mike, Mary.
Thank
I
you
was
guys.
going to say my own
Thank
name.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, folks. And I'll see you, well, some of you before next Wednesday and some of you tomorrow. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Mm.
Bye.